The wing fullback value position, the mid-tier guys, we're going between 569k here with Watini Zalesniak all the way down to 400k. So anyone below that range is going to be in the cheapie section, which is going to be pretty exciting. That's for sure, given we're probably going to need one or two of them. The only reason you would look at sort of any of these potential options, and I've got 7 potential ones, the only reason you'd look at probably 5 of them was if we didn't receive anything more than sort of the one cash cow in that wing fullback position. And we are likely going to need some cover as well in there. So make sure you are looking at these guys, because if no one turns up in the trials, in also team list, in that first team list Tuesday, then we are going to have to look to fish to one or two of these other guys that aren't super popular at the moment. So we have a couple in Pap and Campbell that are really, really popular at the moment, and I will go through them in depth. And there's also some other guys we might need to look at as well. If you weren't going to be going for a keeper in the wing fullback position and you want to spend a little bit less in wing fullback, then you might want to in mid, where you want to get some higher priced guys, then you may need one of these guys. So try to base your decisions in this position on potential for team bounce back and some improvement from themselves, obviously, as well, but then the team. And if that benefits your player, plus you might have a little bit of a gut feel or something like that, that could get these guys over the line to start well. And that's what you're looking for here in this play, is if they can start well, they can make some cash for you, they can get some good scores. And it's very unlikely that many of these guys are going to be players that you want to look to have in your team longer term. So it's that start that is of most importance for you there. So let's get into it with Watini Zalesniak, as we said. An awesome start to the season last year, awesome season overall at 569k. The average was 41.4 and the best of his career by far. So there's no upside for mine with him, given he'll be an expensive winger. Selwyn Cobbo, 568. So the talk is he's moving to centre, and it's unknown, really, him at centre. He will get the dual, which is great, so the wing fullback and the centre dual. And he could be the slightly sort of cheaper gun centre that people look to start with, and could definitely go on with it. And he's someone that's always been fairly consistent for a winger. Last year was anywhere between 20 and 70. Usually with wingers, you do see lower than that, hence the consistency. He did play 4 games in 2021 as a young fella at centre for a 38 average. So that's something to know. That's pretty solid. But again, if you're looking to pick up someone in this sort of mid-tier position, you do hope that they exceed their average that they had last year. So the 41.3 for Selwyn, that's something you're looking for him to add on to. Obviously, the dual position helps, and that could be something that you can move him between the centre and the wing fullback. We are looking for him to increase on that, as I said. And, is he going to be someone that ends up taking Herbie's role and end up scoring the same in that mid-40s? That's the big question mark. Yeah, in those 4 games, he had 15 tackles for 2 misses, which is pretty good, to be honest with you there, at 11 tackles, net tackles, which is great. But it has a fairly tough draw, which we'll go through now here in his footystatistics.com. So Roosters will be, could be anything in that first game. We're not sure what they're going to come out with. Yeah, that's for sure. But the Rabbitohs in the second one, Penrith in third, Cows and Melbourne 4th and 5th. So pretty tough opening draw for the Broncos. Doesn't mean they can't go absolutely bonkers, but you are looking at some scores here. The 15 at fullback in round 1, so I didn't include that, obviously, given it wasn't on the wing. But he can go to different positions and score poorly, like you saw there with the fullback position. And then at the start of 2022 was pretty poor on that wing as well. So what you're mainly looking for is that he's in a really, really good team. He has some patches there where he goes 40 plus on a regular basis there. That's 5 weeks in a row, 40 plus between round 3 and round 7 as well. And then had a couple of lower ones in the 20s and the 30 before he went really well again, a 69, a 50, a 72, 3 out of that 7 weeks through the middle period, and then finished pretty solidly as well with a 40, 43, and 62. What you're looking at with him, let's go to 2023, you just leave the fullback game in there because he had good run meters, but what you're looking at is 150 run meters a game. At centre, what do we expect from him? About 130, 140 potentially, like a small drop from that point, given he won't be running too much out of his own end. But that second and third tackle is when Herbie was the one making a lot of those runs out of his half. And 4.7 tackle breaks a game. He was a 5 tackle a game for 1 miss. So expect that, number to increase and probably go a little bit above what his meters gained would be. He potentially has a little bit of a loss for some tries, but potentially some try assists at that. So the new position, it's a little bit of an interesting one. I just think that the fact that they have a fairly tough draw with some bounce back team potential in Roosters, in Rabbitohs and Cows, who could all start poorly as well, but even Penrith and Melbourne in there are going to be the consistent guys. So and Cobbo, an interesting one at that. Let's go to Connor Tracy next. So 558k, a 40.6 average. Is he going to be fullback? Is he going to be centre? There was talk of him having a pretty significant injury, but then the rest of the talk is that, and what NRL physio thinks there is that he will be fine. There's some talk on Stephen Crichton as to is he going to be playing centre at this point. So does Tracy get that fullback slot? And if he does, we could definitely see some interest for him. So there's lots of players in that team going for that couple of spots, and he's fairly expensive already, sadly, as he played really well for the Sharks there. So Sharks being a better team as well, something to note. 39 average at centre, 44 in the 5 fullback starts, which we'll have a look at in a sec. So this is where the value could definitely lie. If he's to play centre, he'll get the centre dual, which will be cool. But if he gets fullback, he's likely to score better. So with Connor there, let's filter him to those centre games. And you do see a decent amount of consistency there. In 2021, he had a couple of low ones with an 18 and a 21. His lowest since then has been 24 and a 26, both in 2022. And his 3 games last year went 35, 57, 24 with 1 try in that. And really good tackle numbers there. So you made, 40, just under 60 at 59 there for 8 misses. So, pretty solid overall. With that one there, and always runs the footy well. 119 was his lowest in those 3 games there. And as we said, that 38 average in a much larger sample size than that of his fullback average, but super consistent when he plays fullback. Averages 206.8 meters per game. Tackle breaks is at 3, so there's probably a little bit of room to move on that. He'll be asked to do plenty at the Dogs as well, and those 5 games you see there are at the back end of last year, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27 there. In that one, only 2 tries and 2 try assists. So, not crazy numbers there, not overly inflated. You'd expect him to, be somewhere near that 0.4 try scoring rate and similar to that on the try assist. So, at a 44 average in a slightly better team, you're looking at their run to start. It's Eels, Cronulla, Titans, Rabbitohs, Roosters. So, nothing crazy there. Plays in round 13, plays in round 16 as well. So, that's something to note with Connor Tracy. He could definitely be a solid starting option for your side. And I think if you're looking at him, you want it at the wing, you want it at the fullback slot. So no dual position, but you want him there. More chances to be consistent, get good scores somewhere around that 40 mark, and then up and down and around that 50 odd to 60. Not someone I think has the tremendous upside that someone like a Selwyn Cobbo can do in a better team, scoring 2 or 3 tries in a game and getting some base stats as well. So that's probably the one thing to note, that if you don't go with him, it's not going to really hurt you. But I think in this scenario, you're looking for someone with consistency, and Connor Tracy would definitely be able to provide that for you at fullback, definitely. Karaz, 556, another man at the Doggies. So 2K under him there in Tracy. Average is 40.4 for Karaz. He definitely has the big scores in him. We've seen it plenty. He averages 40 on the wing. So in my opinion, the value does lie with him playing centre, which may prove difficult to get that position, considering you've got even potentially Stephen Crichton, who might be there. You got Connor Tracy. It does sound like Bronson Xerri is likely to play New South Wales Cup to start, but he'll be pushing for that starting side at some point. His average is 47 at centre, and you do see him last year carrying a lot of injuries. He came back early from a few injuries as well. So considering that, majority of the time when you come back early, you're likely to be a little bit underdone, considering Dogs really needed him, really needed to go well to even get close to making the 8. Seems like he kind of pushed a little bit early just based on how he looked, some of his numbers. He had back spasms. There's a few things going on with him. So him at centre increased his tackle stats by 5 and tackle busts by 1.5. So that's pretty exciting to look at, obviously, there. But let's just go to him on the wing, obviously, throughout his whole career, and we'll go to minutes over 60 just to show how he looks. But he's a 40 average, as we said, and that's a decent amount of games now across 2 seasons. And then he had those few games at center through round 20 to round 25, and then that one game in round 7 in 2022. So yeah, those stats there, the tackle numbers, really isn't missing more than 3 a game. Has one game with 0, the rest are at 2, which is good. Plenty of offloads in that. Seems to obviously get a little bit more space at center, and he can offload to his winger. He can offload behind to any of his middles there as well. The meters gain numbers aren't low at all at 153. So to get tackle numbers and the meters gain numbers with tackle breaks alone, then he's sitting up at a bit over a 30 base to go along with some offloads and then potentially any other tries. He had the 1 try and 2 line breaks in those 6 starts that he had there. So I'm definitely interested in him personally if he does get the center position, because he'll get the center duel as well, and he could be a really good guy to slot between the center position and the wing fullback position, especially when guys are on buys to be able to help with that and not have to trade in or have lots of cover on the bench. He's definitely a guy that could do that, and he's very, very consistent, and can have those massive games as well, like we saw at the beginning of last year with his 90. And we said that, their run isn't ridiculous. Like, it's probably middle of the road kind of run. Even their bye, and then they have the Tigers, Canberra in there, Dragons in amongst Penrith. So up and down. Hopefully the Dogs are better too. So something to look at with Kiraz at that. All right, Chance, Nickel, Klukstar. So 551k, average of 40.1, had a cracker of a year, helped me tremendously, got fairly cheap, and then had a bit of a run, averaging in the mid-40s across the rest of the season. Did great. So I'm expecting him to be somewhere between that 38 to 42. He went so well last year, so I just don't see too much upside with Chance on that one. And he's not a guy that usually goes nuclear. He had a couple of really good games last year with tries and try assists in there, with lots of tackle breaks with big run meters. So they're going to be few and far between. And do you expect Warriors to be the exact same team? Because they need to be as good as last year for him to be a 40+ guy. Tristan Saylor asked for a release, which was interesting, so they rejected that. But he's behind Walsh and very, very expensive, so avoid Tristan. Sebi Valame with the Cows, 550, average 40 as well. He played absolutely incredible for the Cows last year and scored plenty of tries. I just don't see a lot of upside with Semi there. Dom Young moves to the Roosters, and he's a pretty interesting character given he scored a try per game in 2023 with the Knights. With numbers like that, you would expect it to be a little bit closer to Greg Marzhew, and that really shows how much of a fantasy relevant player Greg is compared to Dom. And he got plenty of good ball from Dane Gagai, very, very good player, obviously. And he got Gagai was hardly scoring any tries, setting Dom Young up plenty, and Gagai averaged 54 and Dom Young averaged 40. So it showed there really probably isn't much room for growth. So I wouldn't expect the same as the Roosters, especially the way they start there as well. And then Suoli'i, has definitely a better out of his own 50 type of game, and he averaged 50 on that wing. So I think that Dom Young at best you get a 42, 43, and he has to score a lot of tries. I just don't see it. Doreen Buller, there's a lot more interest in him personally, but with a buy in round 1, I find it very, very tough to slot him in any one side. The average of 38.4 started really hot, averaging well over 45, and then slowed down from round 18 to finish out the year when the Tigers were struggling as well. And his first year of first grade, I think he'll be better for the run. Teams will obviously study him a little bit more too, given there wasn't much out there on the market in terms of video from him, given he played a lot of basketball and a little less footy. But only 5 tries, which is fairly low, but we've seen that with all the Tigers outside backs. They're very, very low on the tries point of view. I think it'd be hard to start with him, but there's definitely some appeal potentially earlier on in the season. Ronaldo Militalo, 520k, average of 38. He's so volatile. He'll have a cracking bunch of games. I would rather select Jesse Ramian over Militalo, who we spoke about in the center video there. Sonia Saruva, he 518, averaged 37.7, up a decent amount. He was in the mid 400s last year to begin the year, and he would have been a better purchase than he is now. I say only 8 tries because Panthers were incredible, and I think he's due a few extra for sure, but I doubt he goes past 42, given he's likely to have a new man on his inside. Good chances Taylor May, could be Isaac Tungor there as well. Michaela Ravalawa, 514, average 37. He's super volatile as well in a bad team. He did really well to average this much, so that's a no from him. Will Kennedy, I'm having as a no as well at 501k. Had a much better season fantasy-wise, but he's still a no at this price point. Ryan Pappenschnackenhausen. What a man. 495k, average of 36. You'll know my love affair with Pap. Did shed a tear when he got injured again at the back end of last year. So it looks like if he is there for round one, he'll be in my side. He'll be in most people's side. I just think that the upside that Pap has, it's tough to ignore. And it's something that, he could go and average, 50 plus. He could average 49 like his lowest average has been in the last 3 seasons. He could definitely do that easy, and that's a minimum 13 points of value, which you wouldn't be able to miss out on. And he has upside up to the 70 mark in 2021, which was, Vlandy's ball era, but still he can have stretches where he's a 60 guy, and you can't miss out on that. So the injuries risk, the lack of footy definitely has some worries on him, the round 4 bye as well. But as I said, all those positives there, even if he does regress a little bit, it's likely a 44 plus average, and that's 8 points of value at a minimum. So you just want to look at him when he plays, let's say over 60 minutes there at anywhere. So fullback there over the career, it's 56.6, and that has got some finals games in there as well, where he did really well, and obviously 2020 there. So 56 is the potential upside. He has 124, he has 102 in his realm there, in an 80 in there in 2022, a 70, 87, 69s, 73. Like, there's plenty of games where he can go nuts. The main issue would be the beginning to their draw, as we said, with Penrith, Warriors, Newcastle, bye, and the Broncos. So you could leave him out, but given he's owned by 30% right now, and I think if he is named in round 1, it'll be closer to the 40% mark. It would be really, really tough to leave him out. And I think he's someone that he's going to eventually grow into a role where he absolutely does dominate at some point if he can stay on the park. But for the 50 or 60% that do go against him, I do wish you the best of luck. But it'll be a tough one to go against him, that's for sure. Alrighty, let's go to Rapana next. 487, average of 35.4. It's just a no thanks for him. He's getting to the back end. Similar to Kyle Feld at the top of his price after a low sort of section, and then improve from there. Daniel Tupou, no upside, and kind of fighting for his spot there for sure. Alex Johnston, so 480k for him. Small upside for him, given they had a bit of a tough run, obviously from the mid part of the season to the back end. If the Bunnies start slow again, he could definitely be a guy to look at if he gets in the 300s, but not for now. Murray Talangi, 470k, 34 is the average. So he'll be in and around this all year, I'd imagine, this price. He had 37 the year before, so maybe a tick of value, but not one to look at. Tyrell Sloan at 465, very up and down. His position is under fire. It sounds like he might be moving between sort of the wing and the fullback zone if they don't have Lomax at centre. It sounds like it could be a Jack Bird and Moses Sully type of arrangement there in the centres, and Sloan's moving between fullback and wing, which I think is a big miss. You don't want that. But gives Lomax some interest as well if he's moving between the two roles. But interesting. Jaden Campbell, 459 with the Titans there. So 33 is the average for him last year. Thankfully, he's priced according to that. And that includes a lot of games there off the bench, some limited minutes games there as well. He has a 44 average in almost 30 games at fullback, which is very, very cool. So 10 to 11 points of value just to that. And that's also, in a time frame where he hasn't had the spot to himself and it's kind of been in and out of the side, obviously. So it's hard to really notch down your position in the team, your ability to score big points and go nuts in certain games when you're in and out of that team and not practicing, completely have that spot safe so you can try a few more things. There's a few things going on there in the mind which affects you out on the pitch. He only had a 0.3 try scoring rate as well, which means I think there's some room for growth there, and some consistency with that is always going to be good. Still recovering from the injury that he picked up in round 25, so he went off after 58 minutes, something to look at there. So I'm still trying to find out more information on that, and once I do, I will let you guys know and the private group know there. But the best draw other than the round 2 bye. So let's have a look at Campbell now. So the Dragons, the bye, they're obviously the Dogs, Dolphins, Cows, Canberra, Manly for that first 6 games that he plays. So you think that in that he'd be able to get a great opportunity of scoring really well. That's for sure. And there are some big games in here, a 68 and a 74 in that first 6 games that he played last year. And then sort of around that, a 21, but some 30s, some high 30s in there to show that, there's some decent amount of consistency. A couple of 62 games in a row in 2022, another 60 and a 74 at the back end of the year, and a 78 in 2021. So he has the upside. All he needs to do is string a couple of those 60 or 70 games together in and amongst the 28s and the 35s and the like, and he's a 45 to 50 type average. So I'm super keen on him. The draw is incredible for them, and his ability just to get involved in games. The scores are going to be higher scoring in a few of those. Could be like the 30 to 26 type of range. So Campbell's someone you definitely want to be looking at for your sides. Get him in there, I think, and hopefully we find out more on his on any injury that he is carrying or recovery that he's going through. Wilson, there's no spot for him. Blake, that is. Dane Laurie, interested for sure if there's injuries, but seems like he'll need a few at the Panthers now. So David Nofaluma, by round 1, does he even have the spot? There's a few, bit of noise around Nofa for sure. He's very, very volatile and not scoring the tries that he used to in a poor side. Hayes Perham did a good job last year for those that owned him at 450k. Now there's no spot for him. Warbrick, he did his job last season. Let's leave it at that. Well done, Will. Josh Adokar, he is improving, by the way, though, Warbrick. So could be close to a 40 guy if he goes really well, but I want to see it first. Adokar at 444, potential for some improvement, but I think that's the best case for him is 40. So 7.5 points of value. It's not super exciting, and that's sort of like a 10% chance of him averaging 40 at the Dogs like he did at the Storm. They got a pretty good left side, though, now, for sure. Jason Saab, 441, average of 32. He has 5s and 10s in his game. As soon as you look at those numbers, no thanks. Sione Katoa, 437, average of 32. Doesn't get enough ball in this side. All of the other players in their centres and fullback and on the left-hand side as well get much more of an average than him, and that hasn't changed over the last few weeks. So there's too many strike weapons. Corey Oates, he's fighting for that wing spot with Mariner, it sounds like. He's usually a bit of a 30s guy. Highest was 35 this season there. So, yeah, no touching for Corey Oates. Mike Acevo, he becomes a little bit more interesting there at 31.2 average, 429 is the price. He had a 5-game average of 13 near the end of the season, absolutely destroying his average there and obviously helping out his price for now. But then he scored that 79 in the last round with a 4-try effort. The Eels weren't as good last year. Neither was Sivo. So obviously the year before they made the grand final, which was helpful. Does he bounce back? He averaged 40 in 2022, and he has averaged 38 to 40 in 3 seasons before that. So very, very interesting. There could potentially be 7 to sort of 9 points of value on Micah if he gets back to some of his best form and the Parramatta Eels actually improve as well. So there's 2 things that need to happen for him to get back to a 40, in my opinion. If he kind of just sticks where he is and the Eels play well, I think he's about a 35, 36. If he becomes like his barnstorming best as well, then he could get up to about that 40. So, yeah, potential for sure with the way that the Parramatta Eels are set up to begin. Given they have the Dogs there, the Penrith game is a tough one. He would need to score a try, or I think he's going to score really low. Manly, Tigers, Canberra, Cowboys, Dolphins, Manly. 2 Manly in the first 7 games for them, which will be fun. But 8 games. Yeah, cool. But he's definitely someone that a few people are speaking about, and I do see why as well. He could definitely bounce back a little bit, but he does need those games where he's scoring doubles and getting 34, which is not great. Doubles for 36, double for 45, a try for 20, a try for 32. So we need to get his base stats up. There's a few games, too many games here at about the 110 meters mark. So he needs to improve that before anyone gets him in their side, I think. We want to see a good game out of him in the trials. Tom Jenkins, 39.8 average at the Panthers, moving over to the Knights there at 426k. He's likely to occupy the right wing, I believe anyway. He's talented. He's good enough to be able to get that spot. He only played the 5 wing games for the Panthers, scoring 5 tries and having 2 assists, and that got him the 40 average. So you look at that alone and you're like, okay, well, that wing has a try scoring rate of 1 per game with Dom Young. Can Jenkins do it again? Sure. Chances of that happening are 1 per game, obviously about 20 or 30%, I'd say, in this side if the Knights continue to do well. But can he keep this up? That's the big question mark. 110 meters per game in New South Wales Cup feels a little low for what we need, given he had a 31 New South Wales Cup fantasy average, scoring 14 tries in 17 games. So that's a little bit scary. Obviously, the NRL's a bit faster, and the team that he's going to be in here in the Knights have a terrific right-hand side with Dane Gagai. So something to think about with Jenkins, that's for sure. Young averaged 40 last year, scoring that 1 try per game, as we said. So, he gets a 9-point discount based off what he scored last year. He's now priced at a 31. Is enough to be worth it in your side. Like at 426k, it's not the worst amount of money to actually find out. Seems like a bit of a 50-50 call that could pay off, or he just becomes a cheaper wing fullback in your team that's volatile like most, that averages sort of what he's priced at. And the draw is decent until their round 12 bye, playing in round 13 there as well. I think there's worse picks for sure, given they've got Raiders first up, the Cows, who we're not sure what they're going to throw up, Storm there, and Warriors are going to be fairly tough games, and then you've got the Dragons there, Roosters, Bulldogs, Dolphins. So a fairly solid run, you should say, across that sort of first 8 games. As we said there, you get him for the round 13 bye, and you could probably move on from there. He misses round 12, which, that one there, you could use him as a looper, and then probably trade him, you'd say, at that Melbourne game, or the Penrith game, or the bye in round 16. That's probably where, if you were to grab him, that's what you're looking likely to get out of him. He has a 10 last year with no tries, 2 tackles, 4 errors. So he had an absolute shocker in that one. Outside of that, he has 3 errors in the other 5 games. And he had the 1 game at centre in round 25 of 2022. So you're just looking at those games last year, and he can do really well. He had 1 try assist and 1 try for 63. He had a 2 try, 1 try assist game in round 20 for a 60. So he definitely has the upside of that 50 to 60 range, but he does have to score tries to do it, just like all the wing fullbacks do. Tessie, new 424, 30.8 is the average. He's fighting for his spot as well. I just don't see the improvement. With all their weapons, it sounds like Bostock is going to get that spot, who we'll speak about in the next, the wing fullback cheapies. Junior Tupou at 417. He is an interesting one, given he only scored 4 tries. He has tremendous upside. He seems like a really, really good player. The buy in round 1 is going to be annoying, obviously. And he definitely has upside if Tigers get good. But I probably want to see that before I select someone like him, given he can kind of be in and out of games. Tane Milne at 406. Maybe the bench, so probably avoid. Jackson Bolo there. He's fighting for spots as well. So he's an interesting one that if he was to get that wing spot, you could consider him. But as I've written here, it's probably hard to pick him even if he does get that spot, given he's a very up and down player. He started really well when the Roosters were bad last year. He seemed to get the tries down his side, and the left side didn't. And Albert Hopewadi there, he probably has no upside at 404k. Let's finish this off with the best options for points and value. Ryan Papenhuyzen, I've got him there with the highest upside, between 8 and 18 points of value, in my opinion there. So it's a very clear top pick if he's there round 1. Jaden Campbell, the second highest upside, and probably 8 to 13 points of value. I think you could get close to a 50 average. Jacob Kiraz, if he gets the center position, I think he's the next best 4 points. And also the value if he gets that dual, so 0 to 7 points of value. Dual's really nice. Selwyn Cobbo, the new position, potentially Herbie numbers, so 0 to 5 points of value. Connor Tracy, if he's at fullback, somewhere between 0 and 5 points of value. Tom Jenkins, can he be consistent and improve? 0 to 9 points of value. Micah Sivo, the bounce back, 0 to 9 points of value with him. That is the wing fullback value video, guys. We'll slowly get out the cheapies video as well. I suppose the big news that we wanted to talk about as well, and I should get into in this video while we're here, and I'll direct everyone to the end part of this video, is the Brendan Hands versus Joey Lussick battle. Okay, so Brendan Hands here. Really, really important player to look at, given it sounds like Brad Arthur's going to give 80 minutes to one of these guys, or close to it anyway. So we'll look at minutes over the 50 mark for Brendan Hands, and he has a 40.7 average in 77.5 minutes. So that's in 7 games of action. And you do see those first couple of games, he got sort of low to mid 30s. And then he picked up a couple of 50s, a 46 in there, in amongst the 31 and 34, just under 80 minutes. So Brendan Hands, if we were to get him as an option, as an 80-minute hooker, he has the hook and the half dual, which is really, really cool. A break even of 30, they priced him up, unfortunately, based on his average from last year, knowing that if he was to get a spot, then exactly how this has played out, that he's right up there, unfortunately. So yeah, price to the 30, at least 10 points of value, potentially a couple more, given the end of his the last 4 games there were, well, 5 games I should say, were much better than the others, and that only includes 1 try assist and 1 line break with a try saver, which is pretty cool. So definitely have him, Brendan Hands, on your radar. And Joey Lussick at 459, so he averaged more but got priced down, so the other way around for him, given he only played sort of the big minute games for the most part, and just 1 game off the unit. Two games of 51 and 52 minutes with 1 off the interchange there. If you're looking for him to be over 60 minutes is what you want to look at with him, and that's a 50 average in 77 minutes, and that includes the 3 games last year of 54, 36, and 47. That's some really, really big games with 2 tries in 2021. So I do think we need to look at 2023 as as the figure you want to look at there to get things right. And that's a 45.7 average in the 3 80-minute games that he played. So I think either way, obviously Lussick being 50k more expensive without a duel, it's a little bit annoying, but we do know that he has played for a lot longer in the top grades, whether it's here, whether it's in England, than what Brendan Hands does. Thankfully, we have seen both of them, and I think either one of these guys, whoever makes the side, you need to have them in your team. That's for sure. I think one of them needs to be slotting in. He obviously likes to tackle there, 48 tackles for 4 misses last year, and that's going to be really important. Just giving good service to Moses, giving good service to Dylan Brown out there, and then Hopgood through the middle is going to be really important for those 2 guys. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll talk more about them once we learn a bit more information. But that's the wing fullback value video with the Eels hooker situation as well. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.